From Rynearson Stadium at Eastern Michigan University, you're in the Bullseye. I'm Paul Peck, radio voice of Buffalo Bulls football, following a very disappointing 30-17 loss by the Buffalo Bulls to the Eastern Michigan Eagles. We will look back at this loss where the Bulls got off to a slow start, picked it up in the third quarter, actually took the lead, and then could not sustain the momentum as Eastern Michigan scores the final 2 touchdowns of the game and sends the Bulls to their 8th loss of the season. After the game, head coach Jeff Quinn made an interesting comment. As he lamented his team's inability to make the right plays at the right time, he said something very simple, but it made a lot of sense.
We just did not play the 4 quarters that I challenged our football team to play today, and that's really the breakdown more than anything. You can't start winning until you stop losing.
I'm now joined by Bulls radio color analyst Jim Kubiak. We just heard head coach Jeff Quinn make kind of a simplistic statement, but I know exactly what he means. This team can't start winning football games until they stop making the mistakes that cause them to lose. How do you get a team to do that?
Well, it's through repetition. It's through accountability and responsibility. I think that's what Coach Quinn preaches. I think the players are buying into that, but now they have to take it from the film room, from the practice field, onto the game field, and that's really the step that they need to take.
It was a bit of a step back in this game against Eastern Michigan. Some of the things that happened, like the 6 sacks allowed by Chaz Anderson, hadn't been happening earlier in the season, and you could tell in the facial expressions and the voice of Jeff Quinn that he's really disappointed with particularly a couple of those aspects of his team's game.
Well, he's an offensive lineman by trade, so of course that hurts him more than anyone else, and he wants to protect his quarterback and give his quarterback a chance to go down the football field, and Buffalo just wasn't able to do that today.
There were a couple of positives to touch on in this game, and we start with Brandon Oliver, the outstanding Bulls running back with 133 yards rushing. He goes over 1,000 yards, just the 5th back in Buffalo school history to go over 1,000 yards rushing in a season, and he almost single-handedly took this game over.
I think if there's one player on this Buffalo team that embodies what Coach Quinn wants to bring to Buffalo, it's Brandon Oliver. He is tough. He never gives up. He's a dynamic player. He's good in protection. He's good running the football. He does so many things, and he has this resilient attitude, and I think that's what he wants to spread on this football team.
And one of the other bright spots was the debut, a successful one with a field goal and the extra points kicked by Patrick Clark.
Well, those are big. Those are big for Patrick Clark. He comes in and has a really nice field goal at the half, and it was a big play for him. He kind of gets the first one over with, and now on to bigger and better things.
Well, on to bigger and better things may come for the Bulls in their final 2 games of the season, both at home, starting next with the Akron Zips coming to UB Stadium. I think Jeff Quinn touched a little bit about how he's got to get his guys' attitude right. Is that maybe the biggest hurdle that this team's going to have to overcome to try to end on a positive note?
Well, absolutely. When you're on a losing streak, you're trying to gain some kind of momentum. You're trying to get your guys to rally and to continue to fight, especially as you get late in the season. So, I'm sure he's hard at work at that each and every moment of every day. And, these guys can go out winning 2 football games, which would be a huge push into next year.
All right, well, we'll see what happens with those final 2 home games, both at UB Stadium, to finish off the season. But first, let's take one more look back at this game against the Eastern Michigan Eagles into the Buffalo locker room for more post-game reaction.
It slipped away with our intensity to finish. We got to have the understanding that this game requires tremendous effort from all 11 guys, because I challenge this team to understand that they got to play 4 quarters of football. You're willing to lay it on the line for 60 minutes, and to do that, you got to stay locked in, and that wasn't the case. We gave up too many plays offensively from the offensive line, and that's really a group that I feel needs to pick up their play.
Sometimes probably feel like the game just gonna come to us, but you got to go and get it. It's not gonna come to you, because losing is the easy route. It's hard. It's hard to go and get it, and that's what I always strive to do. But everybody got to get on the same page with that.
We had an issue with consistency today. There was a lot of times where we would have a good play and come back the next play and give up an explosive play on defense, and we got to tighten those screws down to make sure we'll be ready for it next week versus Akron.
Disappointing, but one thing I always tell myself to keep the faith. No matter what happens, no matter what situation it is. I got my head knocked off almost on that pass play. I told myself, just keep the faith, You can't do nothing about it. Just got to go back there the next play and execute it 100%.
Believe me, these are tough situations, and this is a tough battle for us right now as a football team. And hopefully, these kids understand when they get a chance to watch this film that their efforts and their determination, their understanding how to be successful at this great game of football is going to be realized, and we stop beating ourselves.